Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of this episode is Why We Do Art, or What's with all the Scribbles, Doodles, and Ditties?
Ditties.
Yeah, I had to think of something with music. Music as well. I was thinking Ditties.
That's great. Ditties.
So anyway, John, this episode comes to us from our listener, Josh. And Josh has sent us a lot of great topics for episodes before, and we're hoping at some point to get to all of them. But if you remember, Josh sent us the idea for the episode on funeral practices.
I sure do. That was a good one.
Right. We did that one. If you haven't heard it, it's So You're Dead, Now What? That was one of Josh's episodes.
I believe we discussed how we would like to, or what I'm going to do to you, I believe.
Right. Which makes me want to outlive you even more. It makes I started working out more and eating better.
It's neck and neck. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't want to be the first.
I wouldn't bet on either one of us.
We're going to be like Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty. I'll just grab onto and leap off of it. And then a couple months ago, Josh sent us a message asking, quote, why do we have and appreciate art? And are we special to the animal kingdom as the only ones that do? Which that was a great question. And Josh added that he wasn't just talking about brushstrokes on a canvas, but music and poetry and all of the above and none of the above.
Right. So, he's biting off the whole big meal of art.
Right. This is art not only with a capital, it's bolded and underlined. This is
that's everything, isn't it? Haven't we already haven't contemporary artists pretty much proven that everything is art?
Well, that's what, I mean, to me, we'll get into it, but it's going to be challenging for us because he's not asking what is art.
Right.
He's asking why is art?
Yeah.
Which that is going to be like a big challenge for us. And first off, I just want to say, as we've mentioned before, I think, all of our listeners are some of the funniest and most brilliant.
I know. The comments on are just great. Great. Especially the stuff you post and then the comments that come after that. And your comments on the comments. Really great stuff.
Yeah. And they're always so hilarious and insightful. And they always bring up something I've never thought about before.
Yeah,
so I love our listeners.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, Josh works for, I'm not going to go into the name of the company, but it's one of the major international shipping companies.
Oh man, that's where the money is. That's what we should have gone into instead of art.
I know. but I want to give a shout out to all the Teamsters and the truck drivers out there.
Hell yeah. Intro to Anthro is pro-union.
We are pro-union.
Yes, we are.
Have given me everything I've ever had. They're the unions, organized labor and unions are the only people that have ever stuck up for me in a job, whether it be the Writers Guild or in the current job I'm in. But anyway, Josh's emails are always so funny and interesting. And this one, he references all kinds of music and photography, and it's almost like a stream of consciousness thing, but it's always really profound. And in the email, he says, quote, I've come to the conclusion that driving a truck leaves more questions than answers in life.
That's awesome.
Isn't that great?
That's
it's
awesome.
like, to me, it's like very poetic and almost mystical and almost religious in a way, that question, and looking at like your avocation and what you see in it. So,
well, also driving is such an intense experience if you think about it. I mean, you're looking out the windshield at the future. You're looking through the rearview mirror at the past, and you're in the present in the car. I mean, it's a very intense thing, and we all do it every day. But if you really, that's why I love long drives, because it does something to you.
It's meditative too, I think, because part of your brain is, I think people have talked about this, part of your brain is activated in like the lines and everything, but it's also something that your subconscious can kind of be free and kind of think about different things.
Yes, there's a lot of talk about flow and what flow is. And, video gamers know what flow is because you get into the game and you kind of just are playing and you're not thinking, but it's not intense hard. It's not hard, but it's working.
Yeah.
And driving has a flow thing to it too. It's and you know when you're in the flow, you know.
Interesting. Are you in the flow right now?
Right now, no.
I thought you were.
This is hard work.
Yeah. Do you think I'm in the flow?
Not yet. Let me know. I'll tell you when you are, but then once I tell you, you'll fall out of the flow because I pointed it out. Like the classic is when you're typing, when you type and you're typing really fast. And the minute you think, oh, I'm typing really fast, that's when you make the mistake, Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been in a flow typing. I don't do the like 2-finger thing, but I'm also like, I don't think I've ever done
You're self-taught with the typing, right? You never took a class.
Oh, I did in the 9th grade. I think I took a class on typing. Yeah,
I'm a good typist. I'm pretty good.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Did you take a class?
Oh yeah. My mother was an incredible typist.
Yeah,
like incredible, like 100 words a minute.
Really,
typer or more. She was insane.
Yeah,
and made money at night typing.
Mary's mom was a high school typing teacher.
Oh,
I guess as well. So Mary really types.
Mary knows how to type. She's got good posture, I bet.
I'd like to see you type sometime. You should send me a little.
I'm no Mary, but I can hold my own. I could be a typist if I had to.
Yeah. Make errors? Do you make errors?
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time.
I'm talking about typing. I'm talking about
right. Typing. Oh. No, typing I'm pretty good.
So anyway, Josh, it's the same way I feel about this show in a way, is the more we investigate and look at different topics in this show, the more questions I have about being human.
It's so true. We've opened up a Pandora's box that we will never close until we both die at exactly the same time.
Right. So all I can say is, Josh, keep your questions coming. I'm glad that you have more questions than answers, because just send them in, because we'll keep trying to answer them.
That's right. Let's do an entire season where it's only Josh's topics. Just a Josh year. 2025 will be Josh. We'll just see
Season 3, Josh.
Season 3, Josh. The Josh season.
Josh asks. Josh wonders or whatever. And one thing I've learned though also is it's not always pleasant to learn about yourself. Not always or other people. Sometimes you learn things you don't want to know.
Yeah.
But you got to keep asking it. And to me, it's I don't know. It's just nice to know that with our listeners and with our friends that we're all out there still. We're not alone, and we're all asking these same questions with a sense of humor and kindness.
Yes.
So anyway,
I love that.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
sweet.
You. Yeah, letting me know I'm not alone.
Thank you, dear listeners.
Yeah. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about why art. Why do people make art? And why do people enjoy art?
Oh, thank God. I'm going to finally learn some answers. Why the hell? Why did I do this again?
And as we've mentioned already, the difference is we're not talking about what is art.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about why is art.
Yes.
And the thing is, if we were doing what is art, we could have done that whole thing, which, everybody always says, it's like, well, everything is art.
Right.
Everything around us is art.
Yeah.
And then they'll say like, well, Marcel Duchamp in 1917 put a urinal in a museum gallery and he called that art. You know what I mean?
And he was right. It is. Well, it's like graffiti is a great one to get on.
Right.
Because people have strong feelings about graffiti, and but you're going to, if you have that conversation, you're going to hit a place where, that's not fun to be in,
Yeah. But I would agree. I mean, to me, it's another expression of art. And
no question. But LA is just filled with amazing graffiti, beautiful, vibrant, and everybody's, now look, I think there are, places that shouldn't be graffitied. But as far as public spaces, all this concrete that we have in this city, I'm like, bring it. I don't want all that gray.
What is it? You guys have that abandoned high rise, right? That
Yeah,
everybody
two of
goes
them.
down
There are
to.
2 towers downtown that they couldn't finish. And they sat there for a while, and then all of a sudden one graffiti artist realized and started, and then it exploded, and they're both just like covered. It's amazing.
Wow,
It looks
that's
great.
cool. Yeah, that's very cool. I like outdoor murals as well. We have a lot of murals in Albuquerque, and those are very cool. Very political. Just well done. Just love it. But in an article called "How Duchamp's Urinal Changed Art Forever," John Mann quotes an anonymous editorial who they think was written by Beatrice Wood. And I think,
really, I know Beatrice Wood. I've never met her, but I sold her pottery.
Right, that's what I was thinking about.
She knew glazes. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
Beato. That's what they called her. Beato. Beato. Mm-hmm.
Were you were working the Beatrice Wood room when you saved that woman's life?
That's right. A woman was eating I guess it was like a beef saute or something on a big stick, and it sealed, and I heard it seal and went, where it was like no, and she was, grabbing at her throat, and all of her friends all froze. They didn't know they all choked, all of them.
Yeah.
A couple of them even took a step back, like, and and she was going down. She was turning blue. I mean, she had that look in her eyes. I walked right over to her and I popped that fucking thing out, and she caught it in her hand. She caught it. But there was a doctor who was like, yeah, people can die really, really fast from that. Yeah, when it seals, because there's just nothing. Yeah. And man, she didn't give me any money. Didn't become my slave for life, which I thought that's what happens.
Yeah, that's always in the movies. That's right.
Yeah. Nothing. She didn't even buy a piece of Beatrice Wood's pottery.
God, she could have bought something. I would have bought something.
Yeah, I know.
Like an ashtray or a coin, like a little coin tray or something at least. Say, thank you for saving my life. I'll take that.
And by the way, I'd never been trained for it. Never.
Really?
No, I just worked at restaurants, and in the employee bathroom, there was always that, you know what I'm talking about, right? That poster.
Yeah.
And I just had read that many times,
Yeah. And it worked.
It worked.
Anyway, Beatrice Wood, if she did write this editorial, she said, whether Duchamp with his own hands made the fountain or not has no importance. He chose it. He took an ordinary article of life, placed it so that its useful significance disappeared under the new title and point of view, and created a new thought of that object.
Right.
Yeah.
You think like, oh, that's not art. Well, the minute you're saying that, it's art, because you're involved in a dialogue about the piece.
Yeah.
I love it when people say, oh, they see some contemporary art and they go, oh, I could have done that. Yeah, that's the whole point. But you didn't.
Right. Exactly. And even I would even say sometimes it's like, I don't know if you could do that. I don't know if you could do that.
Yeah.
But Mann says that, for years, Duchamp had championed the use of ready-mades or existing objects taken from real life and modified or recontextualized to function as works of art.
Yeah.
And he said the idea of a hand of art primarily as a concept rather than an object.
Yes, right.
Is what would make Fountain arguably the most intellectually captivating and challenging art piece of the 20th century. So it was.
I mean, it caused a lot. To this day, people know that piece. It was, and it was just a urinal on a wall.
I love it.
In a museum.
Just put a urinal in a museum, and people. I think it was even rejected when it was first presented.
Yeah,
and I think he was on the board that rejected it. Even I think I'd have to look into that.
That's so great.
But Damon Young, in an article called "It Is and It Isn't," says that Duchamp's fountain demonstrates a shift away from aesthetics to thought. And that's what we're talking about, because now it's not so much how you how you I don't know, how you create the art, the
Right.
skill that goes into creating the art. It's the the thought behind that.
Yes, and the conversation that happens because of it. You know, I think it opens up a dialogue, and I think that's really important. You look at like Chris Bergen. Wait, what was his name? Who got himself shot?
Oh, Chris Burden.
Burden. Yeah, got it. His piece was somebody shot him in the shoulder or something with a gun.
Yeah.
He did all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah,
they locked him up in a little locker. You know,
really?
And just, crazy, performance art kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I think the world's a better place with that stuff, personally.
Me too. I find performance art to be, I don't know, I love it because it's so direct. It's like a really I don't know, like a crystallized form of theater or something. Like you're getting real.
And it has a beginning, middle, and end, and it's never coming back. And that's what I like about improvisation and theater is like it's this night with this flash mob, and that's it.
Yeah,
and there's something very cool about that.
Oh, I love flash mob. You give me a bunch of people doing the same thing all at once in sync. It's like.
It makes people mad. I mean, some people get so mad over that stuff. Yeah.
I'd love to see it. I've never been in a flash mob or when one happened, but I would love to see that.
We could do one, just the two of us.
Really? What would we do?
Let's do a nude march, just the two of us.
Really?
Yeah.
Would it be if we did that and nobody said anything? They just kind of let us go.
They would just look at those two old weirdos. You could do it here on Hollywood Boulevard, and I guarantee nothing would happen.
Yeah, nobody. Then you and I just have to call an Uber afterwards and head home. Nothing happened. Didn't get arrested. That would be the worst thing. So anyway, why do we as humans, getting back to the question of why? So we've talked about what is art. Why do we as humans feel the need to make art, and why do we love and appreciate art? And so, John, you're an artist, and you're an actor and writer.
So are you?
Well, yeah, I've written and directed for TV and theater, and all of our friends are writers and poets and painters and performance artists and musicians and graphic artists.
The graphic artists, such assholes. Those guys.
No, don't. Yeah, we'll edit that out.
I'll tell you something about graphic artists.
No, don't say that.
You say anything, they'll turn on you.
No. I always feel for graphic artists because people will just. Though, as someone who goes to a graphic art, you think you're explaining what you want,
right?
But you're not giving anybody.
One of our best friends is a graphic artist who did Jeff Whitell, who did the graphic art for our podcast, which is amazing,
brilliant,
brilliant. And it's like being a dentist. Like people will constantly ask you to do shit for them. Oh, you're a graphics artist? Hey, I need a letterhead. You know what I mean? It's like being a dentist where they're like, hey, look at this. Do you think that's a cavity?
It's like,
they're never off.
And if you do, even if they're your friend, pay them something. Send them something or something. Yeah.
Yes.
Even if they say they don't want it, just do it.
He wouldn't take any money from us, so we sent him some barbecue.
Right.
Yeah. He didn't say no to that.
Tried to thwart me, reject that, send that back if you don't want to get paid. But anyway, you would think that you and I would have a good idea about why people do art. And I can tell you, first off, it's not for money.
No.
It's not for money.
No.
Because most of the time, it's very few artists out there that are actually making a living and making good money doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're getting into it for that reason, you listen. Spend your time somewhere else. I mean, the chances are it's worse than the lottery. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's just so few opportunities that really pay money for that stuff. So it's got to be something.
A poet? Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You can imagine. You live with one.
I know. Mary says poets don't expect to make money.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a little bit different from, like an actor or a musician or,
Well, dancers, their lifespan, or professional lifespan is so short.
Yeah.
And our friend Pam Tanowitz, who's a successful choreographer, is about as successful as you can be. I mean, she's been Lincoln Center, she's New York, the New York Times loves her, and she's at the top, the peak, and she's making what somebody in in a law firm, middle management in a law firm would make,
Right.
But she's she's amazing.
Yeah, I've really gotten into recently. I've been watching on YouTube's a lot of dance. I've really gotten into dance the last few weeks. Yeah, I'll have to post a few. It's just really, I don't know. It's just so intense and positive and music and no word. I don't know. I've just been enjoying it. The other thing, John, a lot of people talk about how fun it is to work on TV and how fun it is to be in film. And I think there are certain aspects of it are fun, but there's also a few aspects that aren't so fun. That are
miserable.
Yeah.
Every part of it is miserable, except when you get on the set.
Yeah.
And then it's fun as hell. It's so fun. It's hard work, but it is fun. But getting there, oh God.
Oh, yeah. I used to, as soon as I hated meetings, I hated taking meetings with executives or getting notes on it or just having to go through that whole thing. But to me, it was like when you were finally at the computer writing. Was just so much fun, first of all. And then when you see it performed, when you see it come alive, like you're talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, or like when you've written something that is going to be funny and it's coming up, and then you hear it and you hear the laughter of like a live audience or something is really fun. But again, everybody always say when you see like a successful actor on a TV show, for example, who kills themselves, and everybody's always like, why would they kill themselves? They were on that popular show.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you're on a popular show, but it's still, extremely stressful. And I don't know if maybe the success doesn't solve all of your problems,
Yeah. And then, it's always wins the next one,
Yeah. I think, when I was writing, I made some good money, but if you averaged it out over a few years of me looking for work and the amount of hours I put in, I was probably making like $6 an hour. You know what I mean? But for a time, it seemed like, oh yeah, making good money. And it's like, oh, that was, So John, I need to ask, why do you feel you do art?
Oh my God. I don't know. I love the idea of communicating to others, in that way, in that sort of semi-artificial way. I like getting ideas across via a character or a fictional, scenario. Because you can get ideas across that are crazy and out there and fun and that you could never communicate, in quote unquote reality. So to me, it's always been about what I'm thinking about and hoping that that'll trigger something in you. And you'll show that by laughing,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's cool. So I asked Mary, who's a poet, as you mentioned, and I asked her why she writes poetry. And without even thinking about it, she said, it's because I'm not getting through with day-to-day communication.
Yes.
So I need to elevate it so people know it's important.
Yes. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah, very, very close. Yeah. It formalizes it in a way, and in a sense, that's freeing because then you can communicate stuff you could never communicate
right.
one-on-one. Although in the comedy world, especially in politics, that is becoming much narrower,
Really, you think so?
more
Like,
difficult.
you have to watch what you're saying, or
I think so. Yeah, I think we're kind of just we're having a moment as a culture.
I find, and I hate to make big, huge blanket statements, but I think for a lot of people, it's now become hard to see satire.
Yeah, and I don't know, just the ridiculous, the absurd,
Right.
is the silliness. Because I think you can be silly and be smart at the same time. In fact,
Right.
that's kind of my favorite kind of comedy.
Me too. Me
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah.
I would say, like, I love, like Steve Martin before he got all intellectual. You know what I mean? I like the jerk and man with two brains. I thought was real, or like Let's Get Small. I thought was hilarious, and then suddenly it's like Picasso at the Lapin Gilles or something. It's like, well, all right.
When he took the arrow off, the arrow off his head, and the nose glasses.
It was funny. I went after I'd asked Mary that. She was in another room making a cup of tea, and I was like kind of hollered that question in from the dining room. And when I went in there, I said, "Hey, that was really profound. Is it okay if I quote you on that?" And she goes, "What did I say?" and then she thought about it, and she was like, "Hey, that's kind of what I'm talking about." She goes, "Even I don't listen to myself unless I formalize it in a poem."
Yeah.
And it's interesting that even we as individuals often just go on, and the art is us trying to figure out who we are.
Yeah, and reality shows and we're so inundated with people just recording something from their life that it's nice to have something that's sort of heightened and presented.
Right.
Is kind of cool. It's cool that we do that.
Mary also, she directed me to a quote by the musician and writer Nick Cave in his book that came out, Faith, Hope, and Carnage. And in the book, Cave says, initially you create solely for yourself in order to discover what you are. Your art places you in the world. This is very exciting. You feed off the world, off other artists, off your collaborators, off everything around you. By sucking up the world, you become full of potential and powerful with art. Isn't that beautiful? That's like amazing. That. Yeah. And then he says, but at some point, this energy must be redirected. You have to turn it around and pour it back into the world as an act of service.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
If you just are taking, you're gonna feel empty. You got to put it back in.
Yeah. I think it's very sad to me. Humor and laughing. It's I don't know. I've never wanted to hurt people necessarily with humor.
Right.
To me, humor is something. It's a shared experience. It's a common shared experience that we have. A shared absurd. If there's one thing I would say, my view on life is absurdity. Like I feel it's absurd. We all know this thing is going to end. You think it would make us better people, but it doesn't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well said. Yeah. I think that I think the absurd is so crucial. It's so crucial. And I don't know, maybe there's so much absurdity happening right now.
Right.
You know, that it's very hard to separate it from reality. We're living in absurd times.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
But it's exhausting. It's exhausting trying to keep it. But you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that's happening. That's ridiculous.
Because an absurd comedian is like, wouldn't it be crazy if this happened? But but now it is happening.
Yeah. So what do you have to go? Like you can't come up with anything that's as crazy as what's actually happening. The other thing that it comes up is, who are you doing your art for?
Yeah.
And do you have, like, when you think about your art, is it for you? Is it for the audience? Is it for both of you?
Yeah, it's never felt like it was for me. It's always about communicating out. That's always what I've, how I've always felt about it. And if the audience, I want to entertain, it's like, look, it's like weddings, you go to weddings, some weddings, and it's about the bride and the groom. It's all about the bride and the groom, and it's exhausting. And you had to fly to, fucking Rome because, they had to do. Then you go to weddings like yours, where it's for the people who are coming to the wedding. And that's a show. And that's where I'm at. It's like, it's about the community that's coming to celebrate the marriage, not this. I just need to, I don't know.
It's hard with weddings because I think culturally people are taught this is your special day.
Ugh, this is all about the worst phrase ever invented. Yeah, that one, and you can be anything, you can do anything you want. Both
comes into art a lot. I think. Yeah, like people are like, or acting at least. People are like, you should go to Hollywood. You should go to Hollywood and become an actor. You would be great. You deserve it. And the thing is, it's like millions of people from around the world are all being told the same thing.
Right. The most attractive, talented people in the world are already here.
Yeah.
So,
and ultimately, it has nothing to do with how talented you are. Usually, it's just who you know and
where happenstance. Finding the right collaborators, timing, and ambition, and hard work, and all of those things, and training and talent. But that you're right. Being talented is not it's not a ticket at all. At all. Yeah.
And I think there's certain, I always feel, I feel bad for actors because, other arts you can do on your own. For example, if you were a writer or a poet or a painter, you can go off into your studio and do it on your own. But it's like with acting, it's meant to be seen by somebody else.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that makes it extremely hard and frustrating for actors, I think, because it's not like you can, you never hear about somebody, I'm going to go out in the garage and act for a while. You know what I mean? Do you ever? Do you ever get up and be like, I'm going to improvise for 4 hours?
No. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's that medium. It's meant to be directed out, but that's what is also what's great about it.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, but it's always. And I was trying to think of other ways that it would, how that might play out, because they always find, like, when someone dies, some recluse dies, they'll go into his house and find, like, he had a bunch of paintings back there, and the paintings.
Oh yeah, who's the guy in Chicago?
Oh yeah,
Oh my God,
you're talking about.
He was a janitor at a hospital.
Yeah,
and then they found in his place after he died, they found all of these incredibly weird but beautiful drawings.
Yeah, are they like angels or cherubs or something?
Yeah, he was obsessed with Civil War soldiers and these girl cherubs, slightly pedophilic, maybe more than slightly, but still just insanely incredible. Darger.
That sounds familiar to me.
Familiar.
But you never hear about somebody going in like, after he died, we went in there and there were a bunch of VHS of him performing Shakespeare, in his living room. And he was just really, was really brilliant.
Yeah. Nope. That ain't happening.
Let me add, and also, with actors, it's always hard because it's a lot about your look. It has nothing to do with what you can do. And we have a friend who I know, we personally know, both of us, in Chicago. And one time, I don't know if it was a casting agent or someone told her that she was New York pretty, not LA pretty.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which probably means that I don't know.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so again, it has nothing to do with who you are or what you're doing. Have you ever been called out on anything where you show up and you know exactly what sort of person, like everybody looks like you?
Yes. When you go to an audition, it's a bunch of you, different versions of you. And the best you gets the part. Gray guy, old guy, 50 in their late 50s, gray hair, glasses, And you come in and you're like, Jesus. All right. Hi, everybody.
How do you try to pump it up a little bit, or how do you distinguish yourself with a bunch of guys that look just?
I'm terrible at all. That's the reason I write and produce my own stuff. I hate auditions. I'm terrible at it. That's the one thing. I mean, auditions are like the worst way, in my opinion. They are the worst way to measure an actor, because you're putting them in a situation that is not the situation. They're being evaluated by people who don't necessarily know what the hell they're doing. You don't really have somebody to play off of. There's somebody reading behind the. I mean, everything about it is wrong. It's in a beige room with no windows. It's just terrible. Terrible.
I've always liked too, like when the people are casting, if they knew what they were looking for, they would have already cast somebody. It's like they don't know what they're looking for.
It's true. And you really, when you get on the other side, and you've been on the other side as a director, but for me, when I started producing and getting on the other side, I was like, oh my God, this is cockamamie. Yeah. So basically what we ended up doing is I would improvise with every single person, and we put them on tape. And then when we whittled it down to the people we thought we wanted, but not all of them, like 3 of each character or whatever, we would shoot them on location, like a screen test, like old school.
Oh, that's great.
So that they would have the costume and the props and be able to really do their thing, rather than the stupid ass. I audition. I mean, there's a thing that happens with actors where you go to network, and when going to network is the final callback. And you go to an office building with an office room with a bunch of executives crowded in there, and you do it by the door at the front. It's the stupidest, craziest thing I've ever seen. And to make it even crazier, you have to sign a 5-year deal before you go in. So you have to sign a 5-year contract before you audition.
So you're just to hold you, just in case they.
Yeah, because they will not audition you unless you've already agreed to take the part. If you get it,
oh my God,
yeah. So all that's pre-negotiated. So your agents are like, it's so dumb.
I also it's like, from my perspective, and I'm medicated now. I'm on medication. I might be able to handle notes and everything from executives better. But it's always like, they were always like the most lifeless people I'd ever seen. They were all stressed out about their own jobs.
In comedy, like, it's amazing. Comedy executives never laugh.
I know.
It's the most unfunny people in the world. What is up with that?
Yeah, and just not giving you anything in the meetings. You know what I mean? They're always like, they're so busy, and there's so much on their plate.
Yeah, and it's all science,
Yeah.
They don't even like comedy, I don't think.
So anyway, John, we'll move on. And like with most of our topics, we're going to start at the beginning. We're going to look at prehistoric art and why maybe our ancestors may have tried to do it. Okay. And in the book, The Prehistory of the Mind, Stephen Mithen says that art is very hard to define and talk about because art is culturally specific.
Okay.
And he says that, a lot of things that we consider to be art, other cultures probably wouldn't consider to be art.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I still feel like there's some universal stuff that is just all of it, that connects all of humanity.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think art is a cultural universal that all cultures have it.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, there's some things that I think I don't know. Like the pyramid, or I'm trying to think what would be that thing.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, he's talking about, for like rock art or something, like maybe cultures that created rock art didn't have a word for art. It was something else.
I see.
Or he talks about like the Japanese tea ceremony, which is an art, like how people prepare the tea, how you consume the tea. But for us, we would see that and be like, what are they doing? They're just making a cup of tea, you know what I mean? So there's different things that culturally that we have.
Yes, for sure.
And he says that the communities of the Upper Paleolithic, meaning the late Stone Age, are likely to have had a very different concept of art, if one at all, from that which is the most popular today, which means utilitarian are objects to be placed on pedestals in galleries.
Yeah. They were just trying to, weren't they just trying to depict like a successful hunt or something that went well to immortalize it?
Yeah. And again, I don't know if, I live really close to the petroglyphs here. Mm-hmm. And I can even, if I'm 5 minutes from my house, I can go out and see petroglyphs. And I've often looked at them and be like, well, what was the point of this? Was this, was there a religious reason for it? Or was this just somebody up here getting away for a while and doodling? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But Mithun says that for an artifact to be considered art, it has to be either representational or provide evidence for being part of a symbolic code, such as the repetition of the same motifs. And he says the earliest phase of the Upper Paleolithic provides us with examples of both. So then we're looking at symbolism, and we've talked about symbols before, of like a symbol is something that stands for something else.
Right.
So we have like a stop sign stands for us like stopping there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's nothing inherent in the stop sign to make us stop.
But you don't stop all the way, do you? Do you stop all the way?
I usually do. I try to.
I do too.
Yeah.
I'm a rule follower. Once you get arrested, you really you change your perspective changes.
You know what I got? I was just on my way, and everybody in Albuquerque speeds. It's just one of those things. You have to speed everywhere. But they've got these cameras now, which probably lots of places do. But it will issue the ticket for you and track you down and give you the photograph of your car and everything. They've been around for a while.
Yeah.
But they just installed them here in Albuquerque, and I finally got one. And there's no arguing with it.
No. That's why we need robots to be driving us around, and it's gonna happen. It's close. We're getting there. It's gonna be messy though, getting there.
Yeah. Oh God. I guess. Anyway, Mithun says that some of the important properties about symbolic art is, first of all, is the form of the symbol may be arbitrary to its referent, meaning the object that it symbolizes.
Okay.
For example, what we were mentioning the stop sign, but he goes, for example, the symbol of a 2 does not look like anything, a 2 of anything. So just our little squiggle of a 2, and then second, he says a symbol is created with the intention of communication, which is what we're talking about again, coming back to art. And the reason we make the symbol is that we want to tell someone else about something, or even remind ourselves about something.
Oh my God. I email myself all the time.
Do you?
Yes. Well, I'll make a note and then I'll email that note to me,
Yeah.
So because I that's how I operate. I'm old school. I do everything through my email box. That's how I still operate my day.
Yeah.
So, I email myself stupid, funny ideas that I think are funny. And then I read them the next day. I'm like, what were you thinking?
Do you address them to yourself like, hi, John?
Hey, what are you wearing?
Like, hey, here's an idea for you.
You're great. You're doing a great job today. We want you to know.
Do you send yourselves emojis of you like smile with a thumbs up? Hey, John.
It even gets sexual. Like I'll send an eggplant to myself.
Is that sexual, the eggplant?
Yeah. What? Oh my God.
No. What?
Yes, the eggplant is the penis.
Is it?
An erect penis. Yes. Oh my God. You gotta.
I've been sending that for everybody. I've been like, hey,
Jesus.
let's go out for Italian
you kept
food.
Sending it to me. Yeah.
Eggplant parmesan at my house right now.
I thought you were just trying to tell me that you're healthy and functioning.
Thirdly, Mithun says the specific meaning of a symbol may vary between individuals and cultures, which we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And one of the examples that everybody always gives is the swastika.
Yeah.
God. And the thing is, the swastika has been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
In India and here in the Southwest, Native American cultures used it.
In India? Now, it was in India too?
I think in India as well, yeah. Huh. But you find it all out, anything before 1932, you'll find the swastika like painted on pottery and on buildings out here.
Right, right.
And then one other thing the Nazis ruined. You know what I mean? They just ruined the swastika.
That's done. That doodle is done.
Yeah, there's no way. I don't think that one will ever come back. It would be thousands of years.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe someday. But we still have the 5-pointed star that you can do in one doodle.
What do you think about the Charlie Chaplin mustache? Do you think that thing will ever come back?
Never.
A couple hundred years, even? You think a couple hundred years? People will start wearing it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope not, because that means we remember, and we have to remember, because that thing.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard for that one to come back, I think. To say like, oh, no, it's, Oliver Hardy. I'm doing Oliver Hardy. It's
you're not.
I don't know. Mithen says that naturalistic images, perhaps of animals or ancestral beings, can also have complex and multiple meanings. Yeah. Which again, it's like talking about, like, you go up there and you look at those petroglyphs. Everybody always tries to put a meaning on them,
right?
And there's no way for us to know what the meaning of that thing is.
Absolutely. And that happens kind of with all art, like, you take a Shakespeare class and boy, they break it down and they're like, see what he's doing here. And I'm like, what? I mean, I know he's genius, but I feel like you're reaching there, sometimes. But also the other side of it is like, I'll do a show, like I'll improvise and do a show. And people will come and go, that was amazing how you brought this motif all the way through, and I'm like, what? I don't know. I don't remember that. I didn't intend, I've learned to let them be like, yeah, isn't that cool? Because you don't want to take that from them, the meaning that they bring to it, because it's for them.
Right.
It's like music, it's like songs, like songs. We bring a lot of our own meaning to these songs. I mean, and who cares what the songwriter was intending? That's not really the point. Right.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a dual experience, I think, in that the artist may think that what they're presenting means one thing, but you can't control it once it goes out.
Right. It's not yours. I remember after a show, my dad came up and I was at the bar. It was when I was still drinking, and I thought it was a terrible show. And I was, drinking and going, oh man, that sucked. And my dad said, listen, I paid $20 to see this. I get to decide whether it was good or not. And I was like, wow, that was a lesson I never forgot. I was like, oh, right. It's not about me.
Yeah. That is a good lesson, because you don't know. You don't know what it is. And
it's not my job to decide whether it was good or bad. My job is just to put it out there and do my best, and that's it.
Yeah. And like, who knows? That's part of the experience for people too, especially with improv. You never, I don't know. It's when the improv is great, it's brilliant, and I feel like it's elevated to a level of like, almost, I would say it's sublime or divine. For example, like you see it coming out, and it's just like
but when it's bad, it's bad.
I've always said, in the shows I direct, I always try to say too, is like, people just want to see you having fun on stage.
That's true. There is the spirit is so much that goes for music, that goes for so many things.
Yeah. And if you see like the Rat Pack, all the footage of them, it's not that funny. It's all inside jokes and everything.
And they're not really great joke tellers, some of them. And they, they were inebriated and slow on the uptake. And
yeah.
I mean, Sammy was pretty good.
Sammy was good. Yeah, and Dean, I love Dean Martin. He was like a stand-up, for a while. Yeah,
but if he gets too many drinks, it's just like, whatever, Dino.
Yeah. And Frank wasn't a comedian. No. Maybe he was off stage, he was. But you see that, but people loved it because they were having fun. Yeah. You know what I mean? People just wanted to see them having fun.
Yep.
And then Mithen notes that there are 3 cognitive processes critical to making art: mental conception of an image, intentional communication, and the attribution of meaning. And basically what he says is, these three mental attributes that are involved in creating and reading visual symbols, like the making of a visual image, involves planning and executing a preconceived mental template. So you have something in your mind when you go out to make that piece of art.
Yeah.
And then the intentional communication with reference to some displaced event or object. So you're communicating something other than just the doodle itself. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the attribution of meaning to the visual image is not associated with the reference. So then you can have, that's when you start getting into the meaning, I don't know, the meaning or the symbolism, the actual purpose why you're drawing this cow, for example. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he says that although the three cognitive processes critical to making art were all present in our early hominin ancestors, they still didn't make what we consider art.
Why?
So we had the brain power at that point, going back 2.5 million years ago, or even 7 million years ago.
But we wrote stuff on walls.
Right. But he says that it wasn't until we linked all these three elements.
I see.
That we started to create art. That art started to mean something than just the line that we were drawing it.
I see.
On the rock.
They were just trying to depict something non-fictional, something that happened. Here's this herd of giant sloths, and we killed one.
Yeah. It's almost like we had the ability to communicate, like where water was or where food was, for example, and we had the ability to like make tools,
right?
But
what about dance? You don't think there was any dancing or jumping around, or I guess not. Right?
I don't know. We wouldn't know. We wouldn't. I'm sure. I would think that there was, but it's not something that we could in the archaeological record we can find.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, it's once we combined all of that, when we started saying, "Hey, I can," instead of making this tool, "Hey, look at this! I made a man with a lion's head," for example.
Mm-hmm.
Or hey, look, I have that. That actually is one. They think that's the earliest form of like
art?
Visual art, or not visual art, but the carved. It was like found in Germany. It was like a guy with a lion's head.
Oh my god! And how old is it?
I think like 45,000 years ago. They think.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Wow. Another thing that comes
Tim,
up.
What are you doing? What the hell is that? What do you mean? Look, it looks like a lion. It doesn't even look like. Who are you drawing? Who are you depicting? No. I just had this thought that what if there was a guy, but instead of a human head, he had a lion's head on him? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Just make a arrowhead already.
Yeah. We're all going to kill wildebeest. Are you coming with us?
Yeah.
No. I'm going to put a lamb on one.
But you and I made stone tools, and you can imagine like you're all sitting around chipping away on that thing, and somebody's like, "Hey, that looks like you." You know what I mean?
Right. Anybody who's a sculptor, I have so much respect. I mean, how the hell do you? I mean, that's torture. That's just torture.
Yeah. Especially the huge one, like you see a block of marble, and then you have to see it in like a reverse or like a negative of like what
you chip away what's everything else, right? That's how they say it. Like you just take away everything, and then you're left with the sculpture. And I'm like, yeah, okay,
yeah. And then we get into in the late 19th century, they had art for art's sake. Where people talk about like, hey, we would just art doesn't have to have a meaning or it doesn't have to reason. We do it because it needs to be done. You know what I mean?
Or that it's beautiful, right? That it's just, use of color. And my house is filled with art right now because my wife, her father, my father-in-law, is an art dealer, and my wife, so that's carried over, and she will, so she's having a art show for a friend of ours who's really talented. So my house is filled with these giant oil paintings that are just incredible. I'll take a few pictures. They're just incredible.
Yeah.
His name is Stan Kaplan. And my God, it's just amazing. They're just amazing.
Do you think you could post them for us?
Or
take a look at it, or is that...
I'll ask him, but I'm sure he's fine with it because he posts them on Instagram.
Okay. We'll reference him and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then, again, John, we questioned, was there an evolutionary reason for art? And in his book, The Art Instinct, Beauty, Pleasure, and the Human Evolution, Dennis Dutton says, artworks are the most complex and diverse of human achievements. Creations of free human will and conscious execution. Art making requires rational choice, intuitive talent, and the highest levels of learned and innate skills.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then he says, but artistic works and performances are often the most gaudy and flamboyant of human creations, seemingly the opposite of pragmatic behavior. So again, it's like, he says, any way you look at it, the arts have nothing to do with the mundane facts of body and brain that Darwinian evolution typically explains.
Right. They have no purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
So in his book, he's looking at, what can we look at? Is there something we could see that there was an evolutionary reason for us to do art in the first place? Something that gave us an advantage in natural selection.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, when I started performing and was funny on stage, I definitely had better chance at the girls.
Well, that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah. Maybe over thousands of years. Hey, where's that guy who puts the lion head on the people? What?
I know.
Yeah, you mean Seth? He's over here. Yeah. Hi. How do you do that? That's amazing. It looks so cool. Boom.
Yeah, that's one of the ways they said it. It was like whether or not you were the one that was your skill was exhibited, or you were able to produce something that showed like you could provide. It was something that was like not worth. There was no other value except for beauty of it.
Right. It's like everybody wants to be a rock star or have sex with a rock star.
I know. That's the perfect example of like, it's still going on today. You see people and you're like, why would anybody want to have sex with that guy? He is definitely not, he's skinny.
Steven Tyler, great example.
Yeah.
From Aerosmith.
He's tiny. He's skinny. It's not what you would think from a strictly Darwinian standpoint of this idea of like, hey, you need to have the largest, healthiest, strongest person. And yet everybody wants to have sex with a rock star.
Well, isn't that evolution? If you can't look, the most handsome, strongest, whatever were the ones that, got to have sex.
Right.
And then evolution had created it so that sex was pleasurable and that we were driven to it. So if you don't have those attributes, you got to find a way.
You got to use what you have.
You got to use what you have.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, and that's why we created art, basically to,
If you're not strong and handsome and great, and you're not an artist, then you're screwed. Forget it. Your gene pool is over.
Unless you start writing things, or you make music, or you
better, and it better be good, or that's it. Your line dies.
The other thing which Dutton brings up is the creative advantage, or the advantage that imagination gave us. Mm-hmm. And he specifically goes into storytelling in fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, he says stories provide low-cost, low-risk surrogate experience. So by creating stories and telling stories, we could help improve our chances of survival by communicating things we need to watch out for.
Lessons, things to know. Oh, right. That's kind of a universal thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's also like it was miserable back then. I mean, it's miserable now in some respects, but back then, my God, you know, we talked about this. Everybody in the 1800s in the Wild West were all drunk. Why? Because it was horrid, you know. And we talk about the French throwing all the poo. Now you go all the way back where you're just like trying to find berries and oh my God, somebody who can tell a story and take your mind off it for a minute is valuable.
Right.
You might just save him from the, you might just pull him out of the way when the the woolly mammoth comes barreling through.
Yeah. If it's a choice between him and that guy who's always complaining about everything, I want the storyteller to make it.
Exactly.
He also says that, stories, convey a lot of information for one thing, like factual information. Like when you tell a story. He said that stories encourage us to explore the points of views, beliefs, motivations, and values of other human minds.
Absolutely. And that's what makes being an actor so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find when you look back on it, is that one of the things like an improvisation that every night it can be several different characters how you want, or did you prefer playing one character?
I don't know. It's changed over time. I think at first it was as many as possible. And now I kind of want to dig in,
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know why. And there's no conscious choice to do that. I've just noticed it after the fact. Yeah. So,
just a couple more quick things before we start to wrap up. Another thing in the article, Your Brain on Art, Zorana Pringle notes that brain scans have shown that both art production and art appreciation share many of the same underlying neural structures. So it's kind of the same. Where it's
a dance.
Yeah. They're interrelated, but when they do like MRIs and scans on people, they're seeing the same parts of the brain being activated.
Interesting.
Both. Yeah.
Shouldn't we all just be MRI'd all the time in real time? Like, shouldn't there be an app that's kind of telling me what part of my brain's being lit up?
Yeah. I don't know. If I look at it, I think it's that brain scans that people have. Like we were, the last episode we were talking about sleep. And a lot of the stuff the new stuff that's coming out about sleep is it's coming from brain scans. Like what part of the brain is being activated.
Yes. Yeah. I think we should all wear hats with a little screen on it that shows our MRI.
That's the app. That's what we need to sell. Is like you get an MRI helmet and then it's connected to an app, and then the app tells you what your brain was doing all day. Forget about that.
Or more importantly, you can beam it to your friends so they know where you are before they interact with you. Here's the part of my head that's being lit up. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'll see you on the weekend.
You can share that with them. If they get close to you, they get a warning on their phone, like an Amber Alert.
Instead of taking pictures of food on Instagram, we're gonna start taking pictures of our brain. Look at what I was doing.
Ooh,
my reptilian stem, my frontal cortex was flooded. What the hell?
That's what we need. We'll take that to Shark Tank, I think. The other thing that just imagine us trying to present that to Shark Tank with our mocked up brain helmet of just a bike helmet with duct tape on it.
Yeah, we put it on all of them. Put them on all of them and accidentally wipe their brains. But the show does better. The next week, the ratings are up.
Another thing I thought was interesting about Pringle is she talks about whether you're creating art or appreciating art, it's kind of different directions on the same creative process. So like if you're creating it, you start with the idea, then you go through the development and when you realize the work, or you do have the skill to realize it, and then you get to the surface, which is what people see. And then when you're appreciating art, you go the opposite direction.
Right.
You start with the surface.
Yeah. And then you go. That's interesting. I love that.
And apparently, again, that's kind of we're going along the same neural paths for both of those. And just one final thing before we close this. Josh had actually asked, are humans the only ones in the animal kingdom who make art?
Yeah. And is that true?
Well, I did find when I was researching this, I found there were some chimpanzees that had careers as abstract painters.
And look, you can't duct tape a paintbrush to a chimp and tell me he's an artist. Well, I guess you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the 1950s. The zoologist and abstract painter Desmond Morris,
zoologist and abstract painter. I'd like to meet that guy.
Yeah, I actually like it. I think he wrote The Life of Cats or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, he's on TV a lot. He's old now. He's in his 90s. But in the 50s, he worked with a chimpanzee named Congo, and he would put paper down and Congo would paint on it. And Congo made about 400 paintings, and Pablo Picasso and Juan Miro actually bought some of Congo's paintings. And they recently had a retrospective. I mean, I think Congo died like when he was 10. So like shortly after this, he died.
Yeah.
But they did an exhibit of Congo's work at the Lehr Gallery in London in 2019. And I was thinking, like we were talking about, like how frustrating it is to be an artist. You're an artist, you paint your whole life, you never get your own show, and here's some chimp.
Yeah, getting it all. You son of a Congo.
Yeah.
Well, they say you put 100 monkeys in a room, one of them's going to end up typing Shakespeare. Right? Isn't it something like that?
Do they say that? Who said that?
Yeah.
Who said
100 monkeys in a room typing forever. You eventually... I don't know. I've heard that.
Who's that? Studio executive? Studio executive tell you that? So anyway, but there was an article about the show in 2019. It was titled "Art by Congo, the Famous Painting Ape, to Go on Sale." And Desmond Morris told the journalist Jason Daly that the more serious the artist, the more they understood what Congo was doing, because they could see that he was positioning his lines. Wow. And I don't know. I mean, to me, they're trying to sell paintings, I think, first of all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Morris said that Congo's ability to make a controlled abstract pattern and then to vary it in different ways meant that that inside the ape brain, there was already an aesthetic sense. Very primitive, but nevertheless present in a non-human species.
Okay. All right. Listen, let's take it,
Well.
But there's a snail that is living in my front yard that in the morning leaves the most beautiful trails, and he's trying to tell me something. But before I can even get a good look at it, my dog comes out and licks him.
Really?
So, yeah.
Really? Yeah. Earl. See, to me, that's what I mean. You don't see chimps in the wild making art like that. They're making tools, but they're not making art like that. Right. And it's only when someone actually puts a piece of paper in front of a chimp. And
I just think you got to be aware of being aware in order to make art.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to see like what Congo is really trying to communicate in these works.
Stop giving me this paint. It's killing me. I'm going to die at 10 because of all the toxic paint you guys keep giving me.
It was interesting in the press release for the show. I printed off the press release, and Morris actually says it is the work of Congo, not that of the prehistoric cave artists, that can truly be said to represent the birth of art.
Jesus, come on! All right, I'm gonna Google it. I'm gonna look at his work.
Yeah, and Dutton says that many chimpanzees' artworks exist as objects of aesthetic appeal to us only because the trainers removed the paper at the right point. So that's what he was saying.
That's interesting. So he's the artist. I love that.
And then Dutton said, if once they've been interrupted or have ceased on their own accord to brush on paint, chimps show little interest in their productions, never returning again to look at them. So Dutton's argument is like, look, chimps are. If you let the chimp go, he's just gonna keep making a big pile of paint on a piece of paper. You know what I mean? It's you pulling it away from him that's saying, okay, that's enough, Congo.
I agree, 100%.
And then just finally, the only animal that Dutton says kind of creates something like we have with art from an evolutionary perspective is the male bowerbird in New Guinea. And apparently the male bowerbird makes this gigantic nest, which each male bowerbird, decorates it with stuff that they find.
Wow.
And the idea is that then they'll have a female come in and look at it, and if the female likes it, she'll mate with it.
Oh, that's like what I was saying.
That's what Dutton says. He's like the only other species that does that, like tries to create a piece of art to mate is human.
Because that's what it's all about. That's what everything is about. Just making more of us. That's all we boil down to is machines.
Yeah. So anyway, wow. I guess, Josh, to answer your question, why we do art, it's to get laid.
To get laid. That is exactly right.
All right. One more thing, John, before we finish up. There's a really great graphic novel called Why Art?
Ooh.
Which is done by Eleanor Davis. It's really quick read, and it's really fun, but I recommend that to everybody.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Maybe we should buy a few copies and have that as we need giveaways to people who, like Josh, we got to give people stuff.
Yeah, like maybe we'll do that.
Yeah, like the rocks we use to make tools, we should give people, a rock.
maybe I could. Should do our own abstractions. I'll put some paper in front of you. You'll be like Congo, Josh.
Just as long as you know when to take it away.
Be looking in the mail, Josh, for your abstraction by John. He's all. All right, so that brings us to the end of this discussion.
Wow, excellent. This is human number 2 signing off.
And this is human number 1. Thanks again, Josh, for sending in that great question. Keep them coming. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram. I finally learned Instagram, so we'll have some more stuff.
Oh, you did? Instagram. Have you done some? Yeah. I haven't seen that.
I've done some, yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's great. Now you got to learn, what's the other one we've got? Substack.
We're on Substack.
But listen, just copy and paste the Instagram of stuff onto Substack. Yeah, that's all you got to do right now, because your stuff is good. You guys got to check it out. He's working some magic out there.
Divine. It's divine.
It is divine. It's sublime and divine.
Something speaking through me. I don't know what it is. Anyway, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. John, love you. Thanks, everybody. Create, everybody. Go out and paint stuff and have somebody yank it away before it turns into crap.